We live in a very difficult world, psychologically speaking, because the rules have been forged by the human heart, not by the soul, which is a very, very big difference. The difference between the soul and the human heart is very serious. Heart and soul are not the same psyche. They're completely different. The interests of the soul are not the interests of the human heart. This is something of a new kind of understanding of the psyche and of life. The boss of the world today is the human heart, and it has dictated the soul in such a way that the soul is buried and is unable to express itself and unable to discover its own joys and its own flourishing. Instead, it is the human heart that flourishes. One of the most sacred, if not the most sacred institution in human life is marriage. Marriage is so sacred, it's till death do us part, in sickness or in health. And often, even if the wife and the husband don't even get along, they stay together because of the kids, because of the rent, because of the mortgage, because of the family, because of it's complicated to get divorced. Our society is designed to make divorce almost impossible. It's not easy to get a divorce. It's expensive to get a divorce. It takes court cases and fights and feuds. Who's going to keep the kids? What kind of money is going to be distributed? Who's going to keep the house? All this kind of. These difficulties are so serious that divorce is made impossible, even though often divorce is essential because the man and the woman are no longer happy together. They're making each other sick. They can no longer live together. There is a rage, there's a hatred, and divorce is important. Is it possible that a single person, just one person, can meet all your needs, emotional needs, passion and animal needs, physical, power needs, financial needs, adventurous needs for an entire lifetime till death do you part? It's impossible for a single person to fulfill you for an entire lifetime. If a person can fulfill you for 7 or 10 years, it's a miracle. The swoon of early romance and marriage soon disappear within a year or two. The sex becomes different. The romance becomes different. If the children come, the woman becomes very concentrated on the children. The whole romantic sentiment changed seriously. And these things continue to change as human beings change all the time. How can they have perfect love till death do you part? These are crazy biblical values that are not in tune with the rules of the soul, that the soul has to be happy. And if the soul is not happy, then it has to act to retain its happiness. And sometimes divorce is very important for the soul. If the soul doesn't have the balls to divorce, it will suffer seriously and it will become severely depressed, sometimes for a lifetime. So the institution that is the holiest is the soul itself, our own self. The well-being of our soul is the most sacred institution. Because if our soul is unhappy, if our soul is depressed, if a soul is choked, especially in a marriage that it doesn't like, the soul has to leave that marriage. And the society as a whole, the court system, the government, the lawyers, the finance, they have to make divorce easy. Everything can be made easy. We have a judicial system that loves to make everything complex because the complexity means more money for the lawyers. In the real soul versus the heart, the soul can have 3 marriages, 4 marriages, or no marriage at all. Just living with the woman or a woman living with a man is fine. This whole contractual obligation was a way for the woman to secure her financial security. But now that the woman can have her own job and her own money, there is not such a great need for marriage. Often, the marriage itself can destroy the romance and the sexuality, especially the appearance of children can seriously disturb the romance and the sexuality. So much so that affairs start to wander, the desire for affairs start to wander into the brain of the man, especially, and sometimes even the woman. One of the problems with divorce, when divorce is necessary, is that children love to have the parents together. Children freak out when a man and a woman divorce. When the father and the mother separate, the child feels like some kind of death. Because we don't train the child that the individual is supreme. Mom doesn't feel good with dad. This is something that the child has to come to understand. If we train adult souls, right, instead of the children of the crippled emotionals that we train today, then it is easy to communicate to a child that the well-being of the soul is the most important thing in life and not, the marriage and the togetherness of the family. We make believe the children that the unity of the family is the most important thing in life. Wrong. The well-being of each soul is important. Life is measured by the well-being of each soul, not the well-being of the family. I mean, how many couples are together, married and unhappy, alcoholic, on prescription drugs, because the marriage is terrible? The romance has died. The sexuality is non-existent. They're in it for the children. They're in it because there's a house that's worth $1 million, $500,000. They don't know what to do with this problem. And therefore, they sleep in the same bed with somebody that they somewhat despise. That is terrible for the soul. The soul will not grow in this condition. We cannot grow when we are forced to live with somebody we don't like. I mean, religion, which is one of the most powerful bastions of authorities on the planet, forbid divorce. My mother wanted to divorce my father. They didn't get along. It was an arranged marriage. She went to a rabbi who refused the divorce. Religion feels that the family is more important than the individual. In fact, the individual is a kind of perversity and obscenity to religion. That if somebody wants to be happy, if somebody wants to be rich, if somebody wants to be independent, that is an offense to religion. I mean, even Henry VIII asked permission from the Pope at the time for a divorce from his wife. And the Pope refused. And the result of this refusal was the Protestant Church of England. He formed his own church to get his own divorce because he wanted to marry Anne Boleyn. Even the existence of the Protestant Church is a result of a desire for divorce. Marriage is a very powerful institution. It's an old institution with old laws that do not respect the soul today, especially the woman who is a slave, usually in a marriage, who's not allowed really to thrive financially, to have her own career, to have her own company. She's made to do the household chores and to bear children and to be a slave to the husband's desires, especially sexual desires. This whole model of society designed by the human heart is all wrong. We need a new society designed by the soul and soul laws, which respect each individual and make it easy for the individual to thrive